Welcome to Meeples on Meeples, episode 76. I'm Andrew.
I'm Brian.
I'm Adam.
First of all, we'd like to have you come over to our meeplesonmeeples.com, Meeples on Meeples at Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, I don't know if we have
Pinterest,
Instagram, whatever. If it's social media, we probably have it out there.
This week's game of the week is a very popular game that came out in 2015, Flick 'em Up. It is a dexterity game, which means it isn't your traditional board game so much as you are flicking pieces and physically moving them yourself. It is cowboy themed, as you can tell, and it has scenery. It's basically it's kind of like a miniatures game if you've ever played a miniatures game where you have your army, they have their army, and there's certain win conditions you're trying to play. You set up the board by, there are multiple, I believe there are 8 buildings total, I don't have them all set up. And you can do a traditional, just a city street with the buildings lining the side. There are some other setups. They give you 10 scenarios in the scenario book, and of course you can always make up your own and your own layout or whatever. So, we've got a street here. It comes with fences that you can use to put around to block bullets, prevent you from moving places. There's cactuses. Those are supposed to be tumbleweeds, but being as those yellow blocks never move, I think they look like bales of hay is what I've always called them. And then, of course, there's barrels, all kinds of cool little things like that, just nice touches. Each side is going to be represented by, it's basically a coffin box. And you're going to have your 5 cowboys lined up here. So there's the white, and then there's the black, kind of the old white hat versus black hat, good guy, bad guy, the old westerns. Basically you are trying to kill the other side or beat them based on some win condition, depending on the scenario you pick. And there'll be things that say like which person goes first, and then after that you can choose what order you go or whatever. But basically on your turn, you get to move one of your 5 characters. So if this is my character and it's my turn, and I choose I'm going to move him, I would, if I want to move, I can put the disc here. You flick the disc, and wherever it ends, that's where you've moved to. Your other option is you can shoot, where you take a... They don't stand too well on this table, sorry. Take a bullet and you put it basically one disc's width away from your character, from one side to the other, and you choose who you want to shoot at. Again, you flick. Your flick cannot be, you cannot use your thumb to gain more power. It has to be a straight flick like this. So you flick for movement, you flick to shoot.
On movement, when you flick, as you said, there's like the cacti, the fence, the barrels, the bales of hay. If you hit anything, right, the movement is basically invalidated. It's an invalid move. You wasted your move for that turn.
And you go back to where you started.
You go back to where you started, and then you can still shoot, but that's it.
Yeah. Or you can move again. You get 2 options. You can move, shoot, basically. Or shoot, move, I guess. Doesn't matter what order you take them in. That's pretty much it. Now, when you shoot somebody, you have to knock them over. And it can't hit something. So if my bullet bounces off the cactus and then hits his guy, doesn't matter. He doesn't take damage.
He's grazed.
Yeah, no ricochets count. However, if I did knock over the cactus with the bullet, it stays down. So that's just basically more scenery to hide behind or whatever. I think that's about it. When you're done with your turn, you flip your hat over to show that if this was a blue round, we start on blue, and I'll switch it over to red, and that's how you keep track of who's moved and who hasn't for the turn.
And when the round is over, yeah.
Then the next person goes, you go back and forth like that.
I'll explain the clock tower, too.
The clock, that's how you keep track of those turns. Usually, most of the scenarios say you start at 6, so everybody starts on the red hats, and when everybody's gone, it goes to 7 o'clock, and that's round 2, and now everybody's going to be blue hat up, and you'll flip it to red when you're done, because 8's a red round. And so the clock kind of keeps the game moving so that you can't just play forever and ever and ever, like, geez, I can't, if you stink at shooting, fine, when the clock runs out, whoever's ahead wins. That way it kind of ends the game for you.
And the coffin box you can't really see very well. We'll put it up in our component shots in the video. It has little areas on the top where you put the hearts for each character, and then the guns, because there are special guns too. There's the shotgun that somebody can have in the game. And you keep track of
the rifle. It's a rifle, yep.
Excuse me, the rifle.
Yeah, the number of parts is their health, yeah.
That's all kept track of on the top of the box, and then when they die, you actually take them along with the character on the board, and there's a little slot in the back of the coffin box where you drop them in and basically lay them to rest.
And there's some other things you can also get, some other things they have basically an inventory up here for player 1. You fill in these squares, and they give you a lot of options that way.
So let's talk strategy. The kind of basic game that we've really described, and again there are scenario games that you can play, but the basic game is kind of a death match, really, back and forth, cowboys, good guys versus bad guys game. So it's, I think one of the big strategies is, keeping your guys protected. You kind of start out normally on opposite ends of the town, playing with the scenery, making sure they've got the coverage they need, and when you move them up, you still have some kind of protection for them.
And when you're done moving, like let's say I flick to there, so now I have to put my guy there. You choose, once you put them down, you choose which way they're facing. Because remember, they can only shoot from their side. So thinking about the angle, if I want to shoot over there, I might be better off facing my guy this way. Or if I don't want him to hit me, maybe I want my profile facing him. So the way you actually stand and face your guy also can make you a lesser target or a better shooter.
On the other side of that, I mean, it helps which way you're facing, but it doesn't mean that you have to shoot in this direction. If you can put it over here and you can flick it without flicking your guy over in this direction, you can shoot like that, but it just helps a lot because you got to put it right next to him.
Yeah, so you can set up your shots. You don't necessarily have to shoot straight on. And just to kind of get into something, you said knocking your guy over. I think we did actually look it up. Even if you do knock your guy over, it's still a legitimate shot.
Oh.
But it's just,
I don't like that rule.
You don't. but that's, I agree with you. I mean, you don't necessarily need to line your guy up for the perfect shot as long as you can get the angle right.
Right. It definitely helps. So if you want to, because you can also play games where you have two guns and you can do one action shoot from both sides. So then that definitely helps. You would have to be facing them head on.
One other strategy we didn't really talk about is when your guy goes down from a shot, he stays down until you go to play him again the next turn. Mm-hmm. So sometimes you want to maybe, say like you only have one guy or a couple guys still up and standing and 3 guys down, you may want to wait those guys out because they can't be shot again while they're on the ground. Right. So the longer you can leave them down, that's less people for the other team to shoot at, and you can kind of play a strategy that way.
For instance, the last game I had one guy who was down and he had like 1 heart left. So I made sure he was the last person I activated so that the other, because I'd go, they'd go, I'd go, they'd go. And so then he was the last person to go for the round, and he comes up and nobody was able to take that last heart for the whole round. Luckily, I made him live just a little bit longer.
Yeah, one of the biggest thing is, too, for me, which I didn't realize till halfway through the first play we did, if you flick and say you bump right into this cactus, but it doesn't knock over, it's still an invalid move.
Yeah, you cannot.
I don't know why, because in any other Western movie, anything I've ever seen in my entire life, they're usually leaning against the object, but...
That's a little bit frustrating.
Well, to go with, you want, the strategy is to push that whole skill of being, maneuvering your guy, getting better at flicking, kind of encourage you to finesse it a little better. And
I understand that, but if you're flicking it hard enough to knock the object over, at that point it's hard. If you're flicking it just hard enough,
you touch it
to just bump it and it doesn't fall over, that's pretty good.
And that gets into a strategy. It's not necessarily in the game, but when you first set it up, and if it's a new play surface, maybe take some time getting used to what the flick is like, because the different surface is going to determine how far it goes, how hard you have to flick it to get some distance out of it. I had trouble with that the first playthrough we had.
I would flick it a half an inch about every time.
I think I was giving a good push, and it moved like a centimeter. I'm like, well, that was a complete waste.
Now I better try and shoot halfway across the board here. All in all, it's really just dexterity skills. I mean, just practice.
And the other thing to play out is when you do have the guy with the rifle, maybe choosing when to use him necessarily, because he... to
explain, the rifle comes with a little kind of U-shaped thing where the bullet disc fits in perfectly, so that way it guarantees that it's going to shoot straight.
It's a straight shot.
So you can't accidentally kind of bump it and go off to the side, and so it basically, it gives you longer range, more accurate shot like a rifle would.
It might be, stating the obvious, but he's maybe the guy you want to hold back and let him shoot all the way across the level. Right. I mean, he can retain his hearts a little bit longer, but he's also got a better shot at everybody else.
Next up, we usually talk about likes and dislikes. So I'm going to throw one out there right away. I mean, it's kind of the obvious big elephant in the room is the component quality is amazing. We don't have the box out here because it is huge. It's an actual wooden crate. This is the lid to it. They just overproduce everything. The actual coffin box that they go in.
I was even saying this, before we reviewed the rule book. It's a nice
scenario book, but the rule book's the same way. Yeah,
it's a nice thick. Like the cover's a little thicker than the rest of the pages. It's actually like a bound book. It's not like stapled together or anything. The rule book is because it's a little bit thinner. But it's a high quality book even that you'd pay $10-15 for just on its own. I mean, it's really nice.
The wood pieces are all nice and cut out. The finish on them's nice. They're not, you're not going to get slivers or anything, but they stand pretty good. And even though this table is pretty uneven and it's kind of balling up on us, they're sitting up pretty good.
Yeah, we're moving the table. I mean, they've got a pretty good stance to them.
Yeah.
The buildings, when you these feet come off, so it fits and flattens out in the box. But they even thought, if we're sliding these wood pieces off and on, it's going to fray. So they actually gave you clear sticky tape to put around the foot of the building so that it doesn't ruin the cardboard and it'll last forever. I mean, they thought of everything with this.
And the other thing I like about components is, one I'll point out, and I didn't even really think about, is these buildings, the front side is all that matters, but they even did the back side. I mean, it's got the design on it, like it's the back of the building. But just the art style in general, from the buildings to the cover of the wood crate to the cover of the 2 books over here, just really well done. I mean, I really like that design on the top of the box, to be perfectly honest. I mean, just looks
it's
really
gorgeous.
Nice.
It is beautiful. I also like in that scenario book, there's scenarios for every kind of Western movie you've seen.
Protect the watering hole.
There's one where the bad guys are trying to go around and hit all of the water barrels and poison them. And then the good guys are trying to go and unpoison the water supply for the town. There's one where you are just trying to eliminate the leader of the gang, and they're trying to eliminate the sheriff. So it doesn't matter if your other guys die; you just got to keep the boss alive.
The fact that
they can have hostages. There's a man and a woman that can actually be taken hostage or whatever.
And the fact that you can even go in buildings for this thing. They all have the slots down here. You can go in buildings, get different bonuses or things that way too.
There's rob the bank where you're trying to run. I could go on and on. The scenarios are fantastic, and you can just have so much fun with the different objectives.
I think we're saying what comes in the box. I think we're all in agreement is just really nice.
One of the biggest dislikes I had was keeping track of the hats and the turns.
Yeah, it gets a little hectic.
It's a little hectic, and then with the guy
it does help that you can look
and,
here that I just activated him. This is a red, so he should be flipping to a blue hat. So that the clock does help serve a purpose there.
No, I agree, but I'm just saying that even though you do it, and then immediately I start thinking about okay, who's gonna do this, who's gonna do that, or if a guy's down, sometimes you stand him up and you forget to flip it over, and that's one of the biggest things for me is just remembering to flip the hat so that you know which turn you're on and which guy's gone, and so you don't have 4 guys going, well, I think he did, but he didn't, and he did, but no.
A dislike for me, and this is maybe getting kind of picky, but is kind of the learning curve that goes with it. Brian is the guy that owns the game, for our group for this one. He's really got kind of the dexterity down, the feel of the table.
I'm pretty good. I don't want to brag, but
the move disc, the bullets, how they're going to move, how far they're going to go. If you're coming into this cold as the new guy, you're at a disadvantage right away. I mean, it's Andrew and I played against Brian and Ian actually our first game, and they just wailed us. I mean, it wasn't even close.
Luckily, Ian sucks as well.
Luckily, I had a handicap there. In all honesty, it helped balance.
But it's unless both of you have been playing it pretty regularly and playing it on the same surface, you might come into this at a disadvantage to the owner of the game.
And I'm going to throw out a dislike. This game, it does slide fairly well. Let me actually try it here because we've never played it on this table. It slides better than I would expect, but it's going to be the bullet tumbled as soon as it hit one little pelt there or whatever. So. You can't play it on every tabletop. We plays pretty well on my pool table. It played great on wood, although in that case I think it might be too slippery. It would slide too far. So having the right playing surface isn't something you normally think about for most board games, but it matters in a dexterity game.
Yeah, we talked about this in some of our reviews. Do you think there's really kind of an age limit, besides the dexterity issue, an age limit for this kind of game? I mean, who's going to really get into it? And what would be kind of your low end, I guess?
I think 5 and up could play. I'm not saying they'd be any good. You might want to remove a lot of the scenery so there's not stuff for that, or ignore that rule, or if they hit something.
And I was thinking that for a like and a dislike. Can this really expand to a big group? And I think it could.
It plays up to 10. You each get 1 cowboy.
And you could really go to a wide range.
If you had a younger kid that's paired up with an adult to where they can keep track of the turns, they can keep track, and all the kid really has to do is, hey, should I shoot this guy or should I shoot this guy? Kind of, check in this and that. And I think that a 5-year-old could play pretty easy.
And to put it in perspective, my 8-year-old daughter walked by this when my son and I were playing, and she just thought it looked fantastic. Yeah. She wants to play it. My son is 14, and he had a blast, and he loved it. Yeah. So that kind of gives you an idea. Teenagers like it. Little kids are drawn to it because it just looks so cool.
Another possible dislike is that if you've got somebody that just isn't good at dexterity games, like Pat in our group, for instance, really does not like dexterity games. I don't know if he's necessarily bad at them, but you might have somebody that's just not good at dexterity games. I mean, they're automatically probably going to be, 1, at a disadvantage, and 2, not going to be happy playing this game. So, I mean, it's a cool theme and all, but it limits the type of person that's going to play it.
Very true.
Based on the dexterity issue.
I'm going to go back to a like, since you guys have been turning it down, and I love this game. Again, like I say in a lot of our reviews, if the theme comes through, that always helps. Yeah. And again, everything is thematic, from the look of the buildings, the artwork, which you guys talked about, the cowboy hats, excuse me, the coffin box, and there have been some really, I mean, it's just the theme even comes to when you shoot somebody. There have been some great shots where we hit somebody like they did like a full cartwheel, and if they land on their feet, they're good. Or people have like spun on one, toe and fallen over. It's just, those old westerns that have those like ridiculously over dramatic deaths. And so we've had some great, cool plays like that. I mean, everything it just shines through western. And
not to plug ourselves, but it is our channel, so why not? We have actually a video out there. I think it's a 20-second video where we did some slow motion shots of that exact thing, of different deaths. It's actually fun to watch because it's just like you said. You see the guy go flying over. You see the near misses sometimes.
You knock their cowboy hat off, which is cool.
Look for the link below. We'll put it in the comments there.
Yeah. Any other likes and dislikes? I think we've covered most of it.
That's about it, yeah.
Well, it's finally time for our reviews. 1, garbage, use it for a doormat, whatever.
In this case, you could burn it because it's nice wood.
You could burn it. It is nice wood. 10, buy it for your best friend so you both have a copy. I'm actually going to be a little lower than I know Brian.
It is a surprise.
I think it's a 6.5. And it's purely because of rules. If it was based only on components, I would probably give it a 9. But there's certain rules, the way it plays, I didn't care for it all that much. If it came down to components, the wood box, everything is fantastic there.
Is it the dexterity issue? That part of it?
No, because I have pitch car. I love pitch car. Dexterity is not really my problem. It's just small rules that I think if you house ruled them, I might be up more towards a 7.5. But
out of the box,
out of the box, the way the rules say, that's where I'm sitting.
Okay, well, that's complete U-turn here. I'm going 9. This game is fantastic. I love Western movies. I don't think there are nearly enough Western. I know there are not nearly enough Western games, so the theme is very unique in board games. It's not played up enough. That theme comes through in gameplay in every rule. The variety of different scenarios you can play, and you can flip and play the other side, and you can get so many games out of this. And one of the big things is, did you have fun while playing? And this is one of those games where I can honestly say, and every game I played, even Andrew gets 6.5, but everybody at some point has cheered or could not believe some amazing shot somebody pulled off. And you have those moments where you're just your mouth's hanging open, or there's high fives from the other side or whatever. And so, for the most part, people tend to, I think, and really enjoy this game and have a lot of fun. And it looks gorgeous. It's going to draw people. And you want to get your non-gamer friends in, you put this out. You want to get little kids to come, teach your kids, get them interested in your hobby, put this game on the table. I absolutely love it. I've had a blast. Solid 9.
I feel like I've been saying this a lot recently, but I think I'm actually going to jump on board with Andrew, but I'm actually going to go a little bit lower. I'm going to go with a 6 on it.
What?
I really like the components. Again,
what?
Components is a 9.5.
Yeah, the components are amazing.
We
can't deny that.
But, and part of it is, for me, is actually going to come down to the dexterity issue. I'm just not great at dexterity games. I have, pitch car. I don't do great at it, but I love that game. It's a quick enough game, go back and forth. I really like that game. I don't remember what I gave that, probably higher than a 6. But this game, I just felt like I was just constantly frustrated by my ability to flick and hit things, my aim. I had fun, but my ability is what keeps this game down for me. It's just I'm not that great at especially the accuracy was a big thing, and then getting down kind of the feel of the table. The other thing is, like Andrew mentioned, some of the rules, and one of the big ones I know him and I are both hung up on is the whole touching an object. The fact that you can't even touch an object without invalidating your entire move seems a little bit ridiculous to me. I understand if you plow into the cactus and knock it over, maybe that's a little bit much.
You're stuck in the cactus at that point.
The fact that you brush up against it, or you maybe even nick the corner of a fence and the fence doesn't move as you go by, completely invalidates the turn. Just seems a little bit much for me. I enjoy it. I might disagree with Brian too. I think your non-gamer friends might think it's neat, but once they get into playing it, I think you might be surprised about how many are going to have the same frustration as far as the dexterity and the aiming and that kind of stuff when they play it.
Simple fix. get new friends.
True.
This game costs too much.
All right,
Friends
see you
are
later.
cheap. Friends are cheap. This game is expensive.
But components is just, I can't deny that. It is gorgeous. I did have fun playing it. It's just because of a few rule things and my ability, it's just going to be low on the playlist for me. That's why it gets a 6.
So there you go. When you average it, it gets an 8.5.
Is that what it is? You want to bump your score up a little?
New math.
That's our review of Flick 'em Up. As usual, check back next week and see what we're playing.